This is essentially a linguistic toolbox, really, built for those critical high-stakes moments in real life. We're not here for basic English grammar today. We are unlocking the specific, the really specialized vocabulary and key phrases you need to navigate the world.
Exactly.
Whether you're trying to convince a customs officer you'll actually return home, or maybe manage a big financial decision, or even just understand the specs on a new computer you want to buy.
That's right. Our sources today, they're dense. They cover formal international law, personal finance, everyday commerce, and rapid technological development.
A lot to cover.
A lot. And we're pulling out the exact language that really determines success or failure in these situations. These are the specialized terms.
Right.
Knowing these can be the difference between confidently getting that visa or, successfully managing your money, or just knowing that a gigabyte isn't enough when you really need a terabyte of storage.
Our mission, then, is to distill this knowledge quickly, efficiently. We want to make sure you walk away not just knowing the definitions, but really understanding the precise context and the cultural weight these words carry.
Yes, context is key.
Why use a formal noun when maybe a conversational idiom is what's needed? Why does one word mean the difference between, say, a successful transaction and just a frustrating lost opportunity? We want you to be fully prepared for the real English, the kind that gets used when the pressure is on.
That specialized understanding, that's exactly what turns general fluency into, practical competence, being able to actually do things with the language.
Okay, let's unpack this then. And we are starting immediately with, perhaps, the most anxiety-inducing English scenario in global travel.
Oh, I know this one.
Facing the formal gatekeepers during a visa application, or maybe a border interview.
Right. So when you're dealing with international travel, applying to enter a country, the absolute foundational piece of vocabulary is the visa.
And we should probably clarify right away, shouldn't we? While many listeners know this, just in case anyone might confuse the term, a visa is absolutely not a credit card.
Definitely not. Or a general travel pass, no. A visa is an official document. It could be a physical stamp in your passport, maybe a sticker, or increasingly an electronic record linked to your passport.
Okay.
And it grants you legal permission to enter or stay or sometimes work in a country, but crucially for a highly specific purpose and a limited time.
So it's the government saying, okay, you can come.
But only under these conditions. Precisely.
And those conditions, they're really defined by the type of visa, aren't they? Our sources detailed specific U.S. classifications, which are, I think, pretty good examples globally.
They are representative, yes.
For visitors, you have the B2 visa. That's specifically a tourist visa.
Correct. Strictly for travel, tourism, vacation, visiting friends or family. It's temporary by definition.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot use it to work. No way.
Okay. Then you move into categories for people staying longer, though still for a defined period. The F1 visa.
F1 is very common. It's a temporary resident classification used by foreign exchange students.
Right, people studying abroad.
Exactly. Students who might live in the U.S. for, say, a year or maybe much longer while they complete a degree, like an MBA or some technical program. Their stay is tied directly to their studies.
And for temporary work or cultural exchange, there's the J1 visa. That's for a temporary exchange visitor.
Yes, that often covers seasonal workers, maybe interns, au pairs, people doing temporary work or cultural programs for a few months, maybe a year, before they have to return to their home country. That return is built in.
Okay. But regardless of the type of visa, B2, F1, J1, the application pretty quickly gets down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Financial responsibility.
Always. And you need to master the term sponsoring.
What does that mean exactly, to sponsor someone in this visa context?
To sponsor means you are taking direct financial responsibility for that person. You're essentially guaranteeing to the government receiving them that they have enough money.
Or that you'll provide it.
Or that you, the sponsor, will cover all their expenses. Accommodation, food, travel, everything while they're abroad. This is really critical for applicants who are minors, or maybe students without independent income.
So their parents or the organization hosting them has to provide that guarantee. The sponsorship.
Correct. And a major piece of evidence, the document that outlines this arrangement, is often the invitation letter.
Ah, yes, the letter.
That letter needs to be formal. Often it's even notarized. It's written by the person or the relative or the company, the institution in the host country, formally inviting the applicant to visit for a specific reason.
And it has to be specific, right?
Absolutely. It must detail the reason. Maybe attending a crucial business meeting, visiting a sick relative, attending a wedding. The clarity, the formality of this letter, it's paramount. It helps remove any doubt about why the applicant wants to come.
And when showing their own financial capability, the applicant also needs to be ready to talk about their assets. This isn't just cash, is it? It's about proving stability.
Exactly right. Your assets are everything of tangible value you own back in your home country.
Like a house, a car.
Yes. Real estate, vehicles, stocks, bonds, investments, significant bank balances. The visa officer looks at your assets as concrete evidence. Proof that you have a stable financial base, that you won't become a burden on the host country.
And crucially,
they show you have a life of substance, something valuable waiting for you back home, something to return to.
but if there's one single concept, one piece of vocabulary carrying the most weight in that high-stakes interview, it has to be demonstrating ties.
This is it. This is the absolute center of the interview, especially for temporary visas. Ties. These are the legal, the financial, the emotional attachments that keep you connected or, well, tied to your home country.
Like anchors?
Exactly like anchors in a storm. They guarantee, in the eyes of the visa officer, that you will return. If you have lots of strong anchors, the officer feels confident you won't just drift away and, become an illegal immigrant.
I think we need to dig into why this is so critical. Because it really determines the success or failure, especially for those temporary visas. The officer's main job, their mandate, is to prevent people from overstaying.
That is their core mandate, yes. To prevent applicants from overstaying and trying to live or work illegally.
So you have to show ties so strong.
So compelling, yes, that the officer just cannot logically conclude you'd give them all up to become an undocumented resident. Think about weak versus strong ties. A weak tie might be, say, a rental lease that expires next month.
Easy to walk away from.
Right. A strong tie, a mortgage on a family home.
That's a great distinction. A rental agreement, you can just leave it. But a mortgage, that's potentially decades of financial obligation. Ownership, it keeps you financially tethered.
Precisely. Similarly, a short-term, maybe low-paying job, that's a weaker tie. A senior management position at a major company that actually requires your return by a specific date. That's a very strong tie.
And family.
Oh, definitely. Having a spouse, young children who remain behind in your home country, that's a powerful emotional tie. It carries significant weight. It's all about overwhelming the officer with reasons why you must go back.
Which leads directly to the power of evidence. You can't just say you have strong ties.
No, talk is cheap in this situation. You have to prove it with documentation.
You need the evidence.
Yeah.
The physical proof.
Yes. For every single claim you make about your ties, you need up-to-date bank statements showing continuous income, maybe investments, a copy of your home mortgage or the property deed, an official wedding certificate.
A letter from work.
Absolutely. A formal letter from your employer explicitly stating your position, your salary, and crucially, the date you are required to return to work after your trip.
So even if the visa officer only glances at them or only asks 2 quick questions,
you should be prepared. Have a file full of impeccably organized documents ready to go. That preparation itself shows respect for the process. It reinforces your trustworthiness.
Makes sense.
And remember to be specific. When they ask your purpose, your destination city, and state the duration of your stay. Use the precise vocabulary we've talked about. Mention your assets, mention your ties, refer to your invitation letter if you have one, and be ready instantly to present the evidence that proves you are a temporary visitor with every intention of returning to your stable life.
Master those terms, gather that evidence, and you significantly increase your odds of navigating those official gatekeepers successfully. Okay, so now we've navigated the airport, hopefully secured entry. The next big stressor often awaits: money. Let's shift our deep dive now to finance and debt, starting with maybe the biggest picture term in economics, the recession.
Ah, recession. Yes, it's a term that immediately causes anxiety, doesn't it? Because it signals a prolonged period when a country's economy is performing poorly.
And it's not just a feeling, right? It's defined by specific things happening.
Correct. A recession is designed by specific negative outcomes. We see companies start to close down or go bankrupt. That leads directly to widespread job losses.
Which means people have less money.
Exactly. As consumers lose their jobs or even just worry about losing them, they spend less. And that causes stock prices to fall across the board. It's like a downward spiral, a cascading failure.
And that huge macroscopic stress quickly trickles down to the personal level. We need to distinguish between 2 key terms for personal financial distress here. You can be broke.
Right. Broke is very casual, very immediate. It means you currently have literally no money at all. Like, you can't even buy a coffee right now.
Getting there.
Haven't we all? And then there's the more formal and often more long-term state of being in debt.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Being in debt means you owe money to a bank, a credit card company, maybe another person. Being broke might just be temporary, maybe just for the week before K-Day. Being in debt is more structural. It involves obligations, repayment schedules. It hangs over you.
Right. As one of our sources rather amusingly pointed out, when the economy is so bad that even organized crime starts running out of cash, you know you're truly in a deep recession.
A grim indicator.
So let's drill down into the language of structured borrowing. The most basic term is simply a loan.
Yes, a loan is just any money that's borrowed and must be repaid, usually with interest added on. Simple concept, but complex reality.
And building on that, probably one of the most important specific loans most people ever deal with, the mortgage.
Absolutely. A mortgage is that long-term loan used specifically to buy property, a house, an apartment. It's often the largest single amount of money a person will borrow in their entire lifetime.
And pronunciation here is key, isn't it? For fluency. It's mortgage with a silent T.
Crucial point. Avoid saying mortgage. That instantly sounds non-native. It's mortgage.
Got it. Another big expense that often requires borrowing is tuition.
Yes, tuition. That's the money you pay to a school or university simply to study there. For countless students around the world, paying tuition means taking out substantial student loans, which can lead to being in debt for years.
Now, when these economic pressures hit, or maybe personal financial problems arise, our sources had a fantastic conversational phrase to describe just how bad the impact was. Hit me pretty hard.
Oh, that's a great one. It's incredibly useful because it conveys the depth of the hardship without you having to list every single agonizing detail.
Right. You can use it financially, like, the interest rate hike really hit me pretty hard this quarter.
Exactly. But it's also used for personal trauma. The divorce hit me pretty hard. Or my sickness and the medical bills afterward, they hit me pretty hard. It just communicates that the effect was substantial, difficult to deal with, and created significant stress.
That's a really versatile fluency-building phrase. But now let's connect this to something I found really fascinating in the sources. The major cultural attitudes towards debt. The difference between, say, North America and parts of Europe is just stark.
This truly is an aha moment for anyone dealing with international finance or just living abroad. In North America, particularly the US and Canada, the system almost actively requires and encourages debt.
Encourages it.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, debt is often presented as a necessary step towards success. You must establish a credit history. That's a record of you successfully borrowing money and paying it back on time. Without that history, it's much harder to get approved for major things later in life.
Like a good interest rate on a car loan.
Yeah.
Or that all-important mortgage.
Precisely. You need that credit score, which is built on borrowing.
And they start them young. You mentioned banks setting up booths at universities, basically giving away free t-shirts or whatever to get 18-year-olds to sign up for their first credit card.
They do. It's a deliberate cultural mechanism. It pulls people into the system of borrowing early on.
So the idea is get into debt, learn to manage it, or maybe mismanage it first.
And learn the system, yes. It facilitates massive consumer spending, which is a huge driver of that economy. Now, contrast that sharply with the European perspective, using Switzerland as the example from our sources.
Right. There, debt seems viewed much more negatively, almost like a moral failing, or at least something to be avoided at all costs.
That's a fair assessment. The system is often designed to actively restrict borrowing, not make it easy.
How does that work in practice?
Well, for instance, if you want a credit card, you might actually be required to deposit more money with the banks, say 700 francs, than the credit limit they give you, maybe only 500 francs.
Wow, so the bank has zero risk.
Exactly. That deposit serves as immediate collateral. It ensures the bank is totally safe even if you default. This approach is much more conservative. It aims to prevent people from getting into debt in the first place. It makes borrowing harder, but proponents would argue it makes the financial system more stable against excessive borrowing.
So understanding that cultural context is just as important as knowing the word loan or mortgage. It explains why getting credit or financing feels so different depending on where you are in the world.
It connects the vocabulary directly to the economic and social reality. Okay, so once you have your income sorted out, whether it's a salary or wages from working for a company.
Or maybe you're self-employed, working for yourself.
Right. Or perhaps you're getting pocket money or an allowance as a child, or even financial support or benefits from the government if you're unable to work.
Or renting out space.
Or renting out space, yes. Once the money comes in, you need to manage it.
And management really starts with that crucial financial planning document, the budget.
A budget is, simply put, a proactive plan. It shows your expected income on one side versus your anticipated spending on the other. And most importantly, how much you plan to save.
Without a budget, spending just becomes random, chaotic.
It does. And to stick to that budget plan, you need financial discipline, which requires constantly distinguishing between a need and a want.
The classic dilemma.
Indeed. A need is something absolutely vital for survival. Food, basic shelter, essential transportation to work. A want is something that's nice to have, but ultimately unnecessary.
Like the latest gadget, or dining out at a fancy restaurant every week, or maybe that expensive fashion item you saw online.
Exactly. And the failure to distinguish consistently between needs and wants is what leads directly to the financial pitfall of the impulse buy.
The impulse buy. Dangerous territory.
Very. This is buying something quickly, immediately, often without really thinking about whether it fits into your budget or if it's a genuine need versus just a fleeting want. Impulse buys are the enemy of savings plans.
So solid financial English means knowing the key terms like loan, mortgage, tuition, understanding the cultural attitudes towards debt, and rigorously sticking to your budget to avoid those tempting impulse buys.
That's the path to financial stability, linguistically and practically.
Okay, moving from the potentially stressful world of high finance and visas, let's get down to essential daily commerce, starting with the vocabulary you absolutely need when you're checking out at a supermarket or a grocery store.
Right. This is where speed and knowing the lingo really helps. First off, you have to choose your checkout lane. That's the area where you line up to pay the cashier.
And if you've only got a few things, a pint of milk, a loaf of bread,
then you should definitely look for the express checkout lane. There's usually a sign, maybe 15 items or fewer, sometimes 10 or 20. Using the express lane when you have a full shopping cart is a big no-no.
yeah, you'll get some dirty looks for that.
You will. It's a major cultural faux pas. Okay, so once you're in the correct lane, the cashier will probably ask you to place your items on the belt.
The belt being the moving table thingy.
Exactly. The moving conveyor belt that carries your groceries towards the scanner. Then, during the transaction, the cashier might ask about discounts. Do you have a coupon?
A coupon. That little piece of paper, or maybe an electronic code now, that gives you a specific discount on an item.
Correct. And a critical vocabulary lesson here relates to time limits. You need to be careful that your coupon hasn't expired.
Ah, expired. That's a useful word.
Incredibly useful. Expired means it's no longer valid. It's unusable because the deadline has passed. We use it for lots of things. Milk that's gone bad is expired.
A credit card that's past its valid date is expired.
Right. And a coupon that's past its redemption date is also expired. It's a crucial word for everyday commerce.
The cashier might also ask if you have a club card.
Yes, the club card. That's a discount or loyalty card specific to that particular store or chain. It tracks your purchases, gives you special member discounts, basically encouraging you to keep shopping there.
And speaking of convenience at the checkout, one of the best mechanisms, I think, to avoid a separate trip to the bank is cash back.
Oh, cashback is brilliant.
How exactly would you explain the process? Because asking for more money than your bill seems a bit weird at first.
It does seem counterintuitive, but it's elegantly simple. When you pay for your groceries using a debit card, this usually only works with debit cards. You ask the cashier to charge, say, $20 more than your total bill.
Okay.
The transaction goes through for the higher amount, and the cashier then simply hands you that extra $20 in physical cash along with your receipt.
Ah, so you basically use the grocery store like an ATM.
Precisely. You've withdrawn cash right there at the till, eliminating the need to find an ATM machine, potentially pay a withdrawal fee. It's super convenient.
And of course, we can't forget the ubiquitous question at the end of almost every grocery transaction, at least in the US, to sound truly fluent.
Do you prefer paper or plastic? Referring, of course, to the type of bag you want your groceries packed in.
A classic. Now, what if the transaction goes wrong? Coupon expired, card declined.
Well, if you accidentally lined up in the wrong lane with too many items, you might try an informal plea like, cut me some slack, asking the cashier to maybe bend the rules a little, though success isn't guaranteed.
Probably not.
And if things just really aren't working out, the coupon's expired, your card isn't reading, the machine's down, you might just sigh and say, resignedly, it's just not my day.
Okay, shifting gears from groceries to modern connectivity. Let's tackle the language of mobile phone plans. You basically face a fundamental choice, right, between a prepaid plan and a monthly rate plan.
That's the core decision. The prepaid plan is pay before you use. You buy a card or a voucher, load it up with credit for minutes or data in advance.
And when the credit runs out.
The phone stops working for calls or data until you top it up or buy more credit. It gives you fantastic control over your spending. No surprise bills.
Right. The alternative is the monthly rate plan.
Which is post-pay. You typically sign a contract, often for 1 or maybe 2 years. You use the phone, and then you pay a bill at the end of the month based on your usage. These plans usually include a set amount of minutes, texts, and data.
More convenient maybe, but you're locked into that contract.
Exactly. Trade-offs. Now, when you first get a new phone, you need to activate it.
Activate.
That just means making the device or the handset, which is the physical phone itself, work for the first time on the mobile network, getting it registered and connected.
Gotcha. And a big selling point, especially for those monthly plans, is sometimes the rollover option.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for me, the consumer?
Rollover is a nice perk. Let's say your plan includes 500 minutes a month, but you only use 400 in June.
Okay.
With rollover, those unused 100 minutes aren't just lost, they roll over, meaning they get moved and added to your allowance for the next month, July. So in July, you'd have your usual 500 plus the extra 100.
Oh, nice. So you don't feel like you're wasting money if you have a quiet month.
Exactly. It prevents you from feeling penalized for not using everything immediately. Now, when you're looking at the technical details, you need to know if your new device is compatible with the network or other technology.
Compatible with means it works with it.
Yes, it means it functions correctly or works well with the required technology. That could be the 5G network, a specific type of SIM card, maybe the operating system software. If a device is incompatible, it simply won't function properly on that system. You'll have problems.
Okay. Now, imagine a salesperson is offering you a deal that sounds almost too good to be true. You need to be ready with that essential, skeptical, but very fluent phrase.
What's the catch?
Exactly. What's the catch?
That phrase is absolutely crucial. You're asking politely but directly for the hidden negative part. The drawback. The undisclosed condition that makes the deal maybe less wonderful than they're making it sound.
Because there's usually some catch, right?
Almost always. A hidden fee, a long contract obligation you didn't notice, a restriction on usage. Asking what's the catch shows you're savvy.
They might try to reassure you, maybe saying something like, you're in luck, meaning, oh, it just happens to be on sale today.
Right, or they might try to sweeten the deal by saying they'll throw in something extra for free.
Throw in, like toss it in the bag.
Sort of. To throw in means to include an additional item at no extra charge as part of the main deal. Like, if you sign up today, we'll throw in a free headset. Or maybe they'll throw in a protective case or the first month of service free.
It's an added incentive.
It is. But even with things thrown in, always be aware of the small print, especially regarding fees.
Ah, the hidden costs.
The activation fee, the emergency service fee, the monthly administrative fee, taxes. These are often the hidden charges you have to pay on top of the advertised rate plan, and they can significantly change the total cost you actually end up paying. Read the fine print.
Let's move now to the more descriptive side of language, starting with being able to describe people accurately, specifically their facial features. This needs a much richer vocabulary than just saying someone have a big nose or small eyes.
Absolutely. Precision matters here. Let's take noses, for example. Our sources highlighted 3 quite specific types. A Roman nose.
Roman nose, like the statues.
Exactly. It's typically long, prominent, and has a high, straight bridge, resembling the profile often seen in ancient Roman statues. Then you have a pointy nose.
Pointy, so sharp at the end.
Characterized by a narrow bridge and a defined, thin tip. Yes, somewhat sharp or pointed in appearance.
And the third type was the crooked nose.
A crooked nose is one that isn't straight. It might curve noticeably to one side or look slightly bent or asymmetrical.
Often seen on boxers, maybe hockey players, people who've had impacts.
That's often the association, yes. Someone who's taken a few physical blows to the face might end up with a crooked nose. Okay, moving up slightly. To the hair above the eyes. Bushy eyebrows.
Bushy, meaning thick.
Very thick, heavy, lots of hair. Perhaps looking like they could use a bit of trimming. And then a feature many people find quite charming, dimples.
Ah, dimples, those little dents when you smile.
Exactly. Small, usually attractive indentations that appear on the cheeks when a person smiles. They often signal happiness or warmth. Interestingly, you can also have a noticeable dimple right on the center of your chin.
Like John Travolta, he has a chin dimple.
Perfect example. Now, if someone's eyes seem set deep into their skull, we describe them as sunken eyes.
Sunken eyes. Got it. And lips.
If their lips are large, puffy, voluminous, we say they have full lips, meaning they aren't thin. Think of Angelina Jolie's famously full lips.
Okay. And the term for someone with no hair on their head at all?
That's simply bald.
Bald. Easy enough. Now, spots on the skin. This can be confusing. We need to distinguish clearly between a mole and freckles.
Yes, this is important. A mole is typically a small, usually very dark brown or black spot on the skin. Crucially, a mole can sometimes be slightly raised above the surface of the skin.
Like Cindy Crawford's famous beauty mark above her lip. That's a mole.
Exactly. That's a classic example of a mole. Freckles, on the other hand, are different.
How so?
Freckles are also small spots of color, often light brown or reddish, but they are completely flat against the skin. Smooth. They aren't raised at all. And they tend to appear most commonly on people with fair or pale skin, especially after sun exposure.
Like Ron Weasley from Harry Potter is often described as having freckles.
Perfect fictional example. So the key difference is often the color. Moles darker, freckles lighter reddish. And especially the texture, moles can be raised, freckles are always flat.
Okay, that's clear. Now, let's apply this need for precision to another high-pressure situation. Complaining about bad food in a restaurant. You can't just say, I don't like it. You need the right adjective to justify sending a dish back.
Absolutely. Your complaint needs credibility. So if you're served soup that's way too liquid, too thin, almost like water, you don't just say it's watery. The better, more precise word is runny.
Runny, like a runny nose.
Exactly the same word. It signifies the consistency is wrong. It's too liquid, not thick enough to be satisfying soup.
Okay. What if the steak, or maybe chicken, is really tough, chewy, hard to eat, like chewing on, well, rubber?
Then the perfect adjective is rubbery. This texture often results from the food being overcooked.
Overcooked, meaning cooked for too long, or maybe at too high a temperature.
Precisely. Overcooking proteins like meat or eggs often makes them tough and rubbery. Now, what if the problem is flavor, specifically too much salt?
Ah, the chef was too generous with the salt shaker.
The specific culinary term for that is overseasoned. Importantly, while it can refer to other spices, overseasoned almost always implies too much salt, specifically. It ruins the balance of the dish.
And if the food is just awful, so disgusting, maybe spoiled, or so badly prepared that you genuinely cannot or will not eat it.
The definitive word there is inedible. It means it is simply not suitable for eating, not fit for human consumption. That's a very strong complaint.
Okay. Sometimes the problem isn't the quality, but the quantity. You pay a lot, and you get this tiny little piece of food.
If you feel the portion size is ridiculously small for the price, you might complain about receiving just a sliver.
A sliver, like
Yeah.
a tiny piece of wood.
Exactly. A sliver is a very small, thin piece or fragment. Using that word powerfully communicates your extreme dissatisfaction with the tiny portion. I paid $30 for this tiny sliver of fish.
Sends a clear message. Now, when the waiter or manager comes over to apologize, sometimes they want to add emphasis.
Yes. They can use the auxiliary verb do for stress. The waiter in one of our source examples said, I do apologize. Adding that do makes the apology sound more sincere, more heartfelt. It adds emphasis.
And the unhappy customer, meanwhile, used some pretty strong language about the money. They complained about having to shell out my hard-earned bucks.
Great phrase. To shell out is an idiom meaning to pay money, often reluctantly and sometimes a significant amount. And hard-earned bucks emphasizes that the money was gained through considerable effort, sweat, and work.
So the implication is the food had better be worth the struggle it took to earn the money to pay for it.
Precisely. It raises the stakes of the complaint. And finally, on the topic of restaurants, we have to mention that slightly strange but very common cultural code, the doggy bag.
Right. In the U.S. and many other places too now, I think, if you can't finish your meal, maybe the portions were actually huge and you want to take the leftovers home.
You ask the waiter for a doggy bag?
Even if you don't have a dog?
Especially if you don't have a dog. It's polite code. Everyone understands you're taking the food home for yourself, probably for lunch tomorrow.
So why call it a doggy bag?
It's just a polite fiction. It avoids saying directly, please wrap up my leftover steak so I can eat it again tomorrow, which, for some reason, can sometimes be seen as a little impolite or maybe low class. Claiming, even implicitly, that the leftovers are for your pet is just the accepted, polite way to ask.
That's a perfect example of needing to master cultural fluency right alongside the vocabulary itself. Knowing how to ask is as important as knowing what to ask for.
Okay, our final section for this deep dive takes us into the rapidly accelerating world and language of technology. This is a field where vocabulary seems to become outdated almost as quickly as the devices themselves.
Which brings us to our first key concept, driven by that speed: obsolescence.
Right. Something becomes obsolete when it's no longer useful or relevant. And crucially, it's not necessarily because it's broken. It's usually because something newer, better, faster, or more compatible now exists to take its place.
So my old phone might still technically work, but it's obsolete because it can't run the latest apps or connect to the 5G network.
Exactly. The word itself, obsolete, is highly relevant here, as the sources pointed out. Just as a 10-year-old computer chip is functionally obsolete because modern software demands much better performance.
So too, can English words become obsolete, like thy or thou?
Precisely. Those are obsolete forms no longer used in standard conversational English. Language evolves, just like technology.
And this constant speed of change in tech is captured perfectly by the adjective ever-changing.
Ever-changing. It defines technology. Always progressing, always moving forward, constantly evolving into something new, something presumably improved. What's cutting edge today might be standard tomorrow and obsolete the day after.
This pace applies directly to the core components inside our computers. Let's start with the processor, often called the brain.
Yes, the processor, or CPU, is the brain of the machine. It's responsible for managing all the operations, executing instructions, doing the calculations, and the speed of that brain is measured in gigahertz. Gigahertz.
Gigahertz. And higher is better, faster.
Generally, yes. The faster the gigahertz rating, like 3 gigahertz, 4 gigahertz, the more calculations the processor can perform per second, meaning it can run software faster and handle complex tasks more smoothly without lag or delay.
Okay. And besides speed, the other big number we always see is storage. You need to understand the scale here. It's exponential.
It really is. The units are vast and keep growing. We start with megabytes or MB, relatively small now, useful for maybe individual documents or low-res photos. Then we move up significantly to giga.
Gigabytes, GB.
Right. 1 gigabyte is roughly 1,000 megabytes. GB is the standard unit we use now for measuring things like RAM or the capacity of smaller USB flash drives or maybe older smartphone storage.
But increasingly, especially for computer hard drives or external storage, we're dealing in terabytes, TB.
Yes. And the scale jump is huge again. 1 terabyte is approximately 1,000 gigabytes.
Wow. 1,000 gigs.
To put that in perspective for you, a large collection of modern high-definition movies, or maybe a professional photographer's library of high-resolution images, can easily reach the terabyte mark, or even multiple terabytes. This just shows how much digital storage power we now routinely require.
Okay, so what happens if your processor speed isn't enough, or your memory gets full, or something just goes wrong? The computer suffers from failure modes.
Yes. And we need to differentiate between two very common terms for when things go wrong: freezing and crashing.
They sound similar, but they're different.
They are different in severity. When a computer freezes, it basically stops responding to your input. The screen is static, the mouse cursor won't move, the program you were using is just stuck.
Annoying, but maybe recoverable.
Often, yes. It's frequently temporary. You might be able to close the unresponsive program using Task Manager, or sometimes just wait a bit and it might unfreeze itself. It's frustrating, but usually not catastrophic.
Okay, so what's a crash then?
A crash is far more severe. A crash means the entire computer system suddenly stops functioning altogether. This might be accompanied by the infamous blue screen of death on Windows, or just an abrupt, unexpected shutdown.
And the key difference.
The crucial difference is data loss. A crash almost always results in the immediate loss of any unsaved work you had open at the time. Poof, gone. Whereas a freeze usually allows for some chance of recovery, even if it means restarting the program. Crashing is much worse.
Got it. Freeze is bad, crash is disastrous. Now, when you're actually buying a new system, the salesperson will likely use specific language to try and close the deal. They might describe a particular model as top of the line.
Top of the line. Yes, that's common phrasing used across electronics, cars, appliances. It means the best of the best, the highest quality model available, the one with all the features, the most power, and usually the highest price tag.
It signifies premium status, the best they offer.
Exactly. Now, if you're an experienced tech buyer and you sense the salesperson is launching into a long pitch trying to sell you that expensive top-of-the-line model that maybe you don't need,
You can cut them off politely but efficiently.
you can by saying conversationally, "I know where this is going."
I know where this is going.
That phrase signals clearly that you recognize the direction of the conversation. You understand their goal is probably to upsell you to the most expensive option. It allows you to take control of the interaction, maybe redirect them to what you actually want, and prevents them from just continuing their standard prepared monologue. It saves time.
Very useful. Finally, our sources touch briefly on the perennial comparison, Mac versus PC. This helps put some of the technical language into context.
It does. Macs, which often use powerful processors, historically Intel, now their own silicon, are generally perceived as being very fast and smooth for general use, things like graphic design, video editing, everyday tasks. And historically, a major advantage was
Fewer viruses.
significantly fewer viruses and malware issues compared to Windows PCs. That's a critical security advantage for many users, although the gap may be narrowing somewhat.
Okay, but PCs generally hold the edge somewhere else.
Traditionally, yes. For high-end gaming, many cutting-edge, graphically demanding video games are simply better optimized for, or sometimes only available on, the Windows PC platform. The hardware options for extreme gaming are often wider on the PC side.
So the ultimate top-of-the-line device really depends entirely on what you plan to do with it.
Absolutely. But knowing your gigahertz from your gigabytes, understanding the difference between freezing and crashing, that fundamental tech vocabulary, is a constant requirement for just participating intelligently in today's market. Hashtag Tech Outro.
So we've covered quite a range today. 5 major linguistic domains, financial survival, navigating those high-stakes travel permissions, everyday market shopping, how to complain precisely in a restaurant, and the essential components of modern technology. This entire deep dive has really focused on extracting that specific, specialized English vocabulary. The kind designed to ensure you are fluent, confident, and really prepared for those real-world interactions where the context, the specific word choice, truly matters.
And what this deep dive fundamentally shows, I think, is that practical fluency isn't just about grammar rules. It's about mastering the specialized context.
Right.
Knowing the nuanced difference between saying you have money versus demonstrating you have assets could literally be the deciding factor in getting that visa approved.
Yeah.
Understanding whether your soup is merely runny versus truly inedible determines whether your complaint is taken seriously or just dismissed. That specialized context profoundly impacts your real-world outcomes.
So what does this all mean as we look forward?
Well, here's a thought. Given that technology is so clearly ever-changing, pushing devices into obsolescence faster than ever before, how quickly must our essential technical and business English vocabulary also evolve just for us to keep pace in the marketplace?
That's a great question.
We're already pushing beyond terabytes into peta and exabytes of data storage. The language required to define these new scales, to market them, even to complain effectively about them when they fail, it must change too. Think about it. What new slang will we need to precisely complain about an artificial intelligence interface that constantly freezes or gives nonsensical answers? The pursuit of relevant, up-to-date English vocabulary is itself an ever-changing requirement in our world.